Gun. Gun. What? A handgun. For personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Check for the cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension fund. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta drag them through the streets.
It is Tuesday. My name is Michael. This is PrimerTime. What's up, Nick?
Hey, Michael, life is good. It is the middle of January edition of PrimerTime.
That's right. That's right. And for all you out there who are freezing, please do your best to stay warm.
Yeah, and if you got some snow, send it my way, because this wet weather just sucks.
I don't want any snow, man. I'm really not liking this cold weather. I'm not built for this.
Well, yeah,
I'm built for lower temperature of like 62.
This cold weather just reminds me of that certain places like in Cleveland and Ohio and other cities around that northern tier that are banning sledding in city parks due to the fear of litigation. Yeah, it's not even our country anymore. If you can't go sledding, yeah, if you can't go sledding with your kids at the park, I mean, where can you go, right?
This is bad, man.
I was even thinking about taking my daughter to go throw rocks in the frozen pond just to break the ice. And then I was thinking, you know what? Somebody's going to call the cops on me. I better not do that.
That's really shitty.
I'm sitting here thinking, of all the things I used to do when I was a kid, everything was about science. Because you know what? I was learning about velocity by shooting arrows straight up into the sky, and I was learning about terminal velocity watching them come down.
And now that puts you into the terrorist category.
It could. But then again, you grow up and your likes change, and then you get smart and you move into firearms.
I'm telling you, some of my likes are still very juvenile. I still got a thing for fireworks, man.
Oh, I tell you what, fireworks are great. As a matter of fact, I was going crazy the other day trying to tear up my garage looking for the bottle rockets that you sent me home with last time I was in town. I couldn't find
New Year's.
Yeah, I couldn't find them. Out here it was like no big deal. Everybody was there's a courtyard behind where I live, and there was about 20 people outside just lighting off these mortars. And of course, me, I'm underneath the pillow in my bedroom with the lights closed and soundproofing on.
Yeah. So yeah, well, that's one of the benefits of your job, I guess.
Yeah, it is. That's okay. It'll all be worth disability later on.
Yeah, woo! We discussed that. And considering how the Army is doing so completely, just working wonders with the financial system, we got something to start that off, don't we?
Yeah, we sure do. Basically, we've got a story coming out The Army owes Liberty Ammunition millions of dollars in a bullet patent infringement case. This is a story coming out of Bearing Arms, Guns and Patriots. So a federal judge ruled that the government has infringed on a patent by Liberty Ammunition when they went to the basically the 855A1 round of 5.56 ammunition. This is big news. You know, a U.S. Federal court judge handed down the decision saying that the U.S. government has infringed on a patent for copper core steel-tipped ammunition.
Now, this is also some lead-free ammo. Is that correct?
This is the Army's attempt to stay green, like we were never green to begin with. I mean, last time the uniform was green. So
I just want to know the difference. What's worse, you know, having a leaded bullet or spraying depleted uranium? You know, are we going to apply the stay green concept to the depleted uranium? Because I mean, I think that's a little bit worse than lead.
Yeah, well, here's the deal, okay? So we don't really care about depleted uranium when it's in Iraq or Afghanistan, places where we're using tanks, right? I mean, because in southern Afghanistan we had some tanks.
It never comes home on any of that equipment or any of those guys that come home, right? It just stays over there.
Well, yeah, the depleted uranium, anything that we pretty much used, tanks we leave over there because guess what? You know, that stuff ends up either becoming part of a prepositioned fleet or we end up selling it to, you know, a nation like Saudi Arabia or Kuwait.
I can hear the green shoots already. The economy's looking better. My tank building stocks are going through the roof as we talk.
The General Motors tank plant in Lima, Ohio, is loving it.
Oh well.
So okay. Here's the deal. Basically, you know, with the big green push a while back, you know, being a soldier and going through that was just garbage. It's like when they first started throwing EEO and equal opportunity on us. It's like, oh hey, guess what? You have to sit through this equal opportunity training. Well, Army's big mistake was giving me an opportunity to lead equal opportunity training one time. You know what I did?
You made everybody be equal.
I made them all be equal and having them take down notes while I screened them the glorious showing of Blazing Saddles. And I told them if they could come up with every slur that they could remember from there, we would have a discussion, a rap session, as it were.
You know, what has happened? Because you know, Blazing Saddles, that's probably one of the greatest movies ever made, and that would never be able to be made now.
Well, I think it could be made now. The only thing you got to look at who the director was there, and that would be the only type of person who could make it now. Ding.
Oh my! All right, so no more Blazing Saddles. All right, so with this green bullet, that what was the name of the company that had sued?
Liberty Ammunition.
Okay, so Liberty Ammunition's design was a lead-free bullet that had a steel tip, not necessarily a penetrator core, but just a penetrating tip.
A copper core with a steel tip, thereby eliminating lead from basically the components of the ammunition. So
that makes the bullet significantly more expensive, just because the price of copper is a lot more than lead.
Certainly, and not only that, you know, the only lead smelting plant in the U.S. shut down way back. And here's the deal. Okay, so the big environmental push was to first eliminate the use of lead ammunition on U.S. installations. So basically, they wanted anywhere where U.S. service members, you know, whether it was any branch of the service, wanted to eliminate the use of lead because lead had been, you know, tied to certain birds of prey dying when they, you know, whether they eat animals or remnants of animals that have been shot by hunters with lead-tipped bullets and they weren't recovered or whatnot. So, you know, you heard it with the California condor. You know, you and I lived in California when the California condor was almost extinct, right?
Right, and that had nothing to do with pesticides and them spraying paraquat on jillions of acres of pot crops or anything like that. No, it was lead bullets.
It was everything to do with lead bullets. So the Army went soft, and they decided to go and invest in, you know, alternative fuel vehicles, electric vehicles. They decided to divest the stock of conventional leaded ammunition. It's like we're talking about fuel. And they went to this, this lead-free type ammunition. The testing that I've seen with it doesn't particularly hold up well, and I would even say that I would even go as far as referencing the German government's testing with lead-free ammunition, which is now mandated in all state-owned forests over there. So think about it this way, folks. It's not such a far-off idea that your government can go ahead and mandate not only where and when you can hunt in the future or shoot, but what type of ammunition you can use. And to give you a little bit of perspective, they're using the U.S. military as the catalyst for change, because we all know that the U.S. as a society they just will not accept radical change overnight. It has to be bits and pieces at a time. And some of the things that I would reference is look at integration in American society. Integration in American society did not really take off until after the Korean War, Vietnam War, after the services had been integrated post Harry Truman. Once that started to come back to the States, then integration kind of fell more in line with the mainstream, and that's just the way it goes. And you take a look at how it integrates homosexuals into military service now. It's all by design.
Absolutely, you can see the planks of the manifesto being laid all over the place. I don't know. This lawsuit, which it's several. I think it's $14.5 million due up front, and then the Army has to pay 1.4 or 1.7 cents per bullet manufactured for the next 27 years or something like that.
Right.
Which is just an insane amount of money.
Here's the exact figures. So the lump sum payment up front is $15.6 million. That's the first level of damage. And then the second level of damages is the 1.4 cent royalty on each individual round that the government purchases and receives for use. And that will continue until 2027. So
2027.
Yeah, you're looking for almost an additional 12 more years.
Okay, so 12. Let's just say we can't really refer to a non-war year. How many individual rounds do you think the military buys in a year? Just a rough guess. 1 billion?
Oh, God, I couldn't even begin to estimate. I mean, at one point we were able to say, a soldier will fire X number of rounds for training during a given year, but that all went out the window after 2001.
So, I mean, all right, so let's just take a look at what the average soldier carries. And if you go into combat and you've got your rifle and you've got your loadout, how many rounds of ammunition is that?
So my combat load is 210 rounds of ammunition and 5.56. And then
so that includes what's in the gun?
Right, yeah. So you're basically carrying 7 30-round magazines.
Well, that's $2 to that guy.
Yeah. So
wow, that's and over that, yeah, that's a pretty big payout right there.
Yeah, the story goes into saying that the Army purchases 300 million rounds at a time, by lot size, and so that a purchase of that size would get a royalty payment out to Liberty Ammunition of $4,200,000.
And how many times a week do they buy this lot?
The lot of 300 million rounds? I don't know. Probably a little bit more frequently than the Department of Homeland Security, I would guess.
Probably not much.
Yeah. So
considering that you've got departments all over the nation, like the NYPD, who I think they fire more rounds on suspects than you guys do, on Haji.
Yeah, well, But the good thing is that the return on the investment is we usually hit a Haji, whereas the folks in the blue don't normally hit anybody except.
And on top of that, the folks in the blue, like NYPD, for example, like over the last 10 years, they've got lawsuits against them, that like verdicts against them, that total $750 million with a B.
Yeah.
$750 million. So like
that is Michael Bloomberg's stimulus package.
That is a serious amount of money.
It is.
You know, there's a problem with that. I mean, how many schools or parks or school lunch programs or
let's not get into a school lunch program, please.
Something like that. I mean, I don't know. All right, so in the vein of using money inappropriately, last week we spoke about the military's decision to use the M9A3 Beretta as the service pistol going forward, and we have to retract that.
Yeah, because I believe we talked about that there was an option, and I think that I was on the opinion that the Army probably would not go. I think that the Army wanted to go away from Beretta.
And apparently it shows that they have decided to go away from that. Beretta has expressed dismay at the fact that they were not even allowed into this latest round of competition, which I don't understand how that works, because they just adjust that competition whenever they want to.
Yeah, so basically we have a glorious newspaper syndicate called the Military Times, which has branch specific newspapers that go out across the country.
That sounds an awful lot like Pravda.
Yeah, well, it's the truth, right? That's all we say. Anything that's fit to print will be in the Army Times. So the U.S. Army is being reported by the Military Times that says that it opted not to accept the M9A3. And the reason is because they say that the M9A3 does not meet the modular handgun system requirements.
Which is,
I'm sure it's a subjective reason,
and that reason that it does not meet is subject to change.
It will be
within
change,
30 minutes,
and not only that, by congressional hearing. So, yeah,
I'm telling you,
think what it comes down to
$70 billion contract to High Point, and you guys are going to end up with a bunch of High Point 380s.
Yeah, I don't. Well, it was better than 357 SIG, right?
Well, at that point, it's a lot better than a 40 caliber, right?
Well, you're going to get hit by something.
Yeah, I know that one hits home for you. I know it hits home for you, but the evidence is out there.
Well, I think when you get hit with something, it doesn't matter what it is. It's going to hurt. So
right.
The big thing I think that the Army's going for right now is they want to be able to have a handgun system that is configurable, that can be changed to meet whatever the large demographic of shooters that we have that are actually going to be using this. So predominantly officer and very senior enlisted guys that are going to be using this. And a good portion of those are also going to be women. So the Army is going to basically need a system that is going to be able to match well with the bulk of that population.
I really don't understand why they didn't, because the new Beretta M9A3 meets that criteria. It's got a smaller grip. It's a much thinner grip than the Model 92 FS M9. It meets its corrosion resistance. It's laser and package. It's the threaded barrel package, and the infrastructure is there. You've got the Beretta came into service in what, 1979?
85, I think.
85? All right, so you've got 30 years of infrastructure. You've got guys, that's all they know.
Thank goodness that's all they know, because that's how it's time for those guys to get out.
Well, what I'm saying is, I mean, you've got guys, that's what they've trained on. They know these things inside out. They probably know them better than the guy who makes them for the Beretta factory.
Well, and I think that when you take a look at it, and you got to look at it like this. I think that Beretta went and offered this M9A3 a little bit later than what the actual offer period was. So I think that they put themselves at a disadvantage.
So now we're going along with the idea that Beretta violated the rules of a contest that has no rules, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, trust me, it's not do as I say. It's not do as I do, it's do as I say. So when it comes down to it, I honestly and genuinely think that the Army did not want the Beretta brand to be the service pistol. I think that's what it comes down to, because when you look at what they did for the service rifle competition, when the Army decided that they were going to go with the M4 and its
again,
and all of its incarnations,
the M4 with the new optional Magpul stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, when they closed down the competition after the Colt brand decided to fail over and over before the HK or the Ruger ever failed.
And that Ruger was really, really a good rifle. That was the piston-driven Ruger, was it not?
It was the SR556. Yeah.
I just don't. I don't understand the mindset of throwing this money away left and right. I mean, seriously, the amount of money and the amount of just sidearms that the military needs and has needed over the last 30 years, minus the destruction and losses and theft and all that normal shrink that would come with like a regular inventory. The infrastructure is massive for the M9.
Yeah. Well,
and, I mean, the training just in the fact of having to train a soldier on a brand new system. Say let's just say for shits and giggles they go with the Glock. Well, taking a Glock apart and maintaining a Glock is completely different than it is to take apart a Beretta 92. All right, so there's a level of training you're going to have to institute, and that's service wide, man. That's how many people is that? That's way more than a company of 50 people.
Well, they could go ahead and cut out one of our episodes of sexual harassment and awareness training. I would gladly go for remedial pistol training.
I'm sorry. I've heard you speak in private.
Yeah,
you need this training.
Yeah, well. I've been around for 19 and a half years, and they haven't figured out a way to get me out yet. So, obviously, I'm either really, really good at what I do, or they're really bad at finding ways to get rid of me.
Let's hope they don't send you to Liberia. Let's hit on that real quick, even though it's not necessarily firearms.
All right, so that actually kind of hits close to me, because this is.
But it hit close to me too, dude.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was gonna say this is one of the installations that I've been on quite a few times in my career. It's Fort Hood. So in the central heart of Texas region, there was a soldier from the 36th Engineer Brigade that was deployed to Liberia to help construct facilities that were going to be used for combating the vicious Ebola, and soldier was returned to the U.S. Due to some kind of emergency leave requirement. Maybe somebody in his family was either dead or dying, and this individual was supposed to be under a quarantine order. However, for some reason, this one was exempt. And was in a story published today. The individual has been found dead on his front lawn, face down.
Now, the preliminary tests are negative for Ebola, but they cannot rule Ebola out. Is that correct?
That is correct. And
all right,
I would find it would be very convenient that he does not have Ebola, in the fact that he was supposed to be under a quarantine order when he was found dead face down on his lawn.
That's bad. They said in New York that they weren't supposed to say the E word, that they were supposed to call it traveler's fever or something like that.
Yeah, well, they're also not supposed to call it a quarantine. They're supposed to call it controlled monitoring.
They have a department that just makes this stuff up, don't they?
Usually it's a bunch of captains that sit around the room looking for things to say so that they can get good evaluations and become majors.
They should contract this work out. I'd volunteer for that.
Trust me, you don't want that job.
I could make up acronyms and create interesting ways on how to say, traveler's fever.
as me and some of my good friends know, a good wordsmith will do a lot for you. So I tell you what, we have folks that I've come into contact with in the Army that on paper look great. But when you get a chance to meet him and know him and view their work ethic, you can see that the Army has been robbed. Whatever their wages are, the Army's getting taken.
Well, now, Speaking of getting robbed and getting taken, I got to go back to this 9mm proposal from. It's killing me. And all right, so we're going to stick with 9mm because NATO allies use 9mm, and 9mm is readily available all over the world, and blah blah blah. Was the 5.7 from FN Herstal, which FN Herstal is a wonderful company. They make lots of great products. Right now, one of the pistols that they make uses a proprietary bullet to them. Actually, I think now it's off patent, and there's a couple other companies making it, but not in massive quantities. It's 5.7 by 28mm, and looks like a little tiny 5.56 cartridge is basically what it looks like.
Yeah, it's just a slightly bigger, however, less powder.
It's kind of an interesting concept, but that's not ever going to be used by the military, is it?
No.
Other than in specialized applications.
No, I don't think that will ever find its way into the U.S. Army's inventory. I can't speak for the other services, but I'm pretty sure that if we didn't go ahead and move up to the 6.5, Grendel, which had much better performance than a 5.56, I can't say that we'd ever, go the other way and regress down to a smaller diameter round that probably doesn't have, as good performance as what we currently have.
Well, the magic of the 5.7 is with the what is it? The SS-107 and the SS-109 loading from FN, which is actually made by Fiocchi.
Yeah.
In that load, it's an armor-piercing vest. I think it pierces up to something like 75 layers of Kevlar at 50 meters or something.
Yeah, that would be the drug user or the drug cartel's ammunition of choice in Mexico.
Well, yeah, but that's what that pistol is designed for. That's what it was designed around, and that's what its initial function was. Now, you are correct that a FN-57 with a fully loaded magazine of SS-109 or SS-107 will sell for $5,000 in Mexico. That's not a joke. That's a done deal.
And here I was planning to harvest kidneys.
I'm telling you, man, the market for kidneys is all dried up right now.
It must be. Got to be all that drinking people have been doing.
I don't know, man. I've been trying to sell like all three of mine, and I can't do it.
Speaking of trying to sell things and trade things and can't do it, in my area, the well is dry. I'll tell you what, I am in a haven for shotguns and handguns. If you've got a rifle, you may want to just sit on that until you move.
You have an area that's got a significant amount of hunting, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We're very, very close to a national forest, and we're very, very close to West Virginia, where you can pretty much go hunt anything with whatever you got. Car,
right.
Rifle, muzzleloader, musket, slingshot, whatever. So, it's not like folks out here don't hunt with centerfire rifles. But at least in my county, there's a major university here. The county supervisors just barely approved a brand new shooting range for the county's law enforcement agencies. So there's not a lot of support for the shooting sports out here. But when it comes to shooting, a lot of folks love to shoot shotguns. A lot of folks love to shoot and have handguns on hand, but just the market for shotguns for centerfire rifles just isn't there. And it's a foreign idea to me, because I know that anything in a normal town, anything in, any other state in the union, if you sell anything from 243 on up to 30-06 even, anything in between, you're gonna do very well with it. Even if you got a 300 Win Mag, you're going to sell that. No questions asked. It boggles my mind how I've put up offers on 3 different caliber rifles and none of them have takers.
Okay, now let me ask you, even though you live in a state that's got fairly decent gun laws, you're also closer to major metro areas that have ugly gun laws.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. So do you think that maybe there's a mindset that, well, they're not after my 243, so that's not really an item that's necessarily on the block that's a gotta have it. But how would an AR-15 sell in your neighborhood?
Those will sell, and they will sell for a premium. However, everything is a Franken gun being marketed as a, this is a premium receiver, or this is a premium build with premium parts, and it's like, hold on, guy, you got your stuff at Brownells.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody upsells their Anderson lower and,
Hey, speaking of
Palmetto
speaking of Anderson lowers, classic firearms,
and Palmetto
Station, $39.95 for an Anderson firearms lower,
and that's where at
classicfirearms.com.
That's not a bad price.
$39. You can't beat that.
And that's a strip lower. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a strip lower. So you've got to go through an
Nothing
FFL.
fancy to it. It's just a plain Jane regular AR-15 lower.
Yeah.
Okay, so, that's not a bad deal.
No, that's probably the best price that I've seen out there. You got to spend anywhere between say $15 to $30 for FFL fees. Unless somebody's an FFL and they'll do you a solid. But if you can significantly lower the cost by getting one of those, I haven't heard anything bad about Anderson. Lowers. I
think Anderson manufactures for some other companies.
Yeah.
And they just end up putting that company's name on it.
It's possible. I tell you what, basically when you look at the magazine well of an AR-15, that is a lot of advertising space. So I think that if you're tired of your Punisher skull, or you're tired of your Spider, go ahead and get something else.
You bring up the Punisher skull, and the latest craze around my area is hydro dipping. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I've actually seen hydro dipping in a couple of different scenarios. I've seen a lot of folks do it with their archery equipment. Actually, you go on YouTube anytime. You can just look up hydro dipping. There's a couple of guys that put out some really decent tutorials on how to do hydro dipping. A lot of different patterns that are out there. Everything from skulls to snake skins to dollars to whatever. I mean, you can the limitations are limitless.
Get those dollar signs on your high point.
That's it. So this is a way for folks to customize whatever piece of anything they have.
And what's the durability factor? Is there any aid to it? Does it aid in rust prevention? Does it give an abrasion protection? Does it offer any sort of hardness?
Not necessarily right out of the bat, because basically what a hydro dipping is it's a film. It's a water soluble film, and what happens is that there's a tub of water that's just lukewarm water. You lay your film on there. The film's got to be there for X number of seconds, and then you spray an applicator on. The applicator has to go on for 30 seconds, and then the surface of whatever you intend to dip with it has to be roughed up in order to accept it. Once that process is done and you submerge the item through the film and into the water, that film will adhere to it, but you still have to go ahead and seal it. So as far as rust protection, things like that, I don't see hydro dipping as a way to ensure any kind of corrosion protection. I mean, I think it's really cool if you're going to do something that you want to throw a camo, if you got a plain Jane tackle box, or you got the coolest thing that I've seen people do with hydro dipping is actually take skulls from some of their trophies that they may have done as a European mount that have gotten a little bit of patina on it from the smoking that goes on. I've seen them go ahead and rough up the skulls a little bit and then dip the skulls. So they put a little film of, some camouflage underneath antlers or something like that. I mean, that's what I've seen it be good for.
You don't see it as a positive use in necessarily in firearms, though, do you? Other than as a
not
decorative?
Necessarily, only because, like I said, you got to dip it through water, and anybody that knows anything about metal and water, unless it's galvanized, it's not a good combination.
Galvanized rust too. Don't let them lie to you.
It
galvanized stainless rust as well.
It does, but it takes a lot longer. So,
all right. So now that we're on the issue of rust and all that, you happen to like the older center fire ex-military rifles and bolt action rifles in particular.
Sure.
And so let's talk about let's say like your 8mm, the 7.92, and let's say the Kami equivalent, the 7.62 by 54. These all come with a corrosive version. Even old 303 British has it. I haven't seen any corrosive American ammunition in a long time. So that's not really a concern. But if you're shooting these older rifles, I'd like to discuss something that's probably not discussed a whole lot on radio, but I know it works. You have to take care of that corrosion. A lot of people say soap and water, and I don't believe soap and water works. I think you have to have something that counteracts the acid.
Well, and not only that, you want to put a layer between the oxidization. So,
well, urine takes care of that. So if you've got a Mosin Nagant, seriously, I'm not joking. If you've got a Mosin Nagant, you've got a crate of 880 rounds of corrosive ammo made in the late 50s or something, and you decide that you're going to shoot that, you should clean that rifle. Best way to clean that rifle is to take that massive bayonet that's on that thing, stick it in the ground, and pee into the bolt. Yeah.
I mean, with the
pee into the bore, it works.
Yeah.
It works. It destroys the corrosion. Now you're going to want to clean it after that.
I thought you just want to run it wet.
That's not the same thing as frog lube.
No.
But it does take care of corrosion. And
like I said, a lot of people have different things that they want to do. I've seen some people just go in and use WD-40, which I do not recommend.
No,
if you're gonna, that's just to displace water. That's not a corrosion protectant. The Army has been using CLP or break free for years. They make different designs in terms of the temperature rating for things that get for places that get really cold. They've got a thicker version of it, but Ballistol. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ballistol. It comes from Europe.
Ballistol's the greatest stuff in the world. Ballistol eats copper, it eats lead, it eats fouling, it eats corrosion, but it's expensive. It's like $30 a quart. Well,
you know what? When I was over in Germany, anytime I bought a firearm, the gun store that I would go to would give me a free bottle of that stuff. Aerosol bottle. So, I've got like 3 or 4 laying around that, I think I've been able to go through one. And
that's a pretty good deal right there. Because seriously, in the United States, that stuff is $30 a quart. It's just like Amsoil.
Yeah.
Well, it's pricey stuff, but I mean, it works. It works.
You're going to pay for what you get, and if you want to go ahead and have that level of corrosion protection, there you go. And,
nothing beats that.
And one of the things that I recommend to people, all the time is making sure that, number one, that they understand their firearm that they're working with. I mean, that they have the time around it. They've taken it apart, according to whatever the manufacturer tells them to do. Get familiar with the breakdown process, and individually clean and lubricate the pieces. So if you've got a handgun and you can strip it down to where, the barrel is separated from the action, just soak the heck out of that, because it's not going to do anything to the finish. And if anything, the stuff on the inside of that barrel, that fouling, that copper fouling, or whatever carbon is there, that's all going to get removed. And if you don't believe that a fouled barrel can affect accuracy,
you're highly mistaken.
You are.
Now there's something to be said with your choice of cleaning products and whether or not the Ballistol or the Rem oil or your Hops number 9 is available. Some people really don't care, and I'm one of those guys that doesn't care if that stuff's not there, because I will scrub and I'll use other things. But in that vein, be very careful if you use, for example, automotive chemicals.
Oh yeah, those can strip finishes in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. Now I'll tell you what, you got to clean the inside of a really nasty bore, a nasty barrel. You go ahead and you use like carburetor cleaner or brake cleaner.
Yeah, certainly. That carburetor cleaners.
Do not get it on the finish.
Yeah.
Do not get it on the finish. You will ruin the bluing.
Yeah.
You will ruin whatever kind of finish you have on it, but I'll tell you what, the inside of that barrel will be clean.
Yeah, carburetor cleaner is probably the best that I've seen to use in a pinch. You know, and the very first time I ever had to clean the engine compartment of a M577A2 tactical command post carrier. I was a young soldier. I was very ambitious, and I was entered into a competition in my organization to have the cleanest vehicle. And I was scrubbing my ass off trying to get the engine bay completely clean. I mean, we had
That's beautiful. That is the best mind fuck I've heard yet.
Tell me about it. But I'll tell you what. I won that competition, and I owe it all to Sergeant First Class Lorenza Richardson, who is probably long since retired and had a heart attack. But he went ahead and he saw me struggling, and he saw me putting some elbow grease behind it, and he looks at me and he goes, "So, how long you plan on sitting here?" I'm like, you know, standard Army answer, "Till I get it done, Sergeant." He goes, "Well, that's great. I want to get home and get drunk. So use this," and he hands me a thing of carburetor cleaner. And yeah, guess who won the competition?
And the skies parted and everything became bright and shiny.
It was like the angels descended. I heard the clarion, and there it was.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I actually won that competition, and yeah, my name was out there. So unfortunately,
give all the cans of carburetor cleaner to that dude.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well, you know, in using carburetor cleaner or brake cleaner on that, we also come to the issue of corrosion protection. I personally happen to like the cheapest option out there for corrosion protection. I like 90-weight gear oil.
Yeah, and
I get a rag soaky wet with that, and I wipe everything down with gear oil.
You know, short of using Cosmoline, if you're going to pack something away for a long time, you know, some people believe that you gotta bathe whatever you're trying to protect in it. I'm one of the guys that, hey, if you go ahead and clean it real good and give it a light coat and set it in a rack or put it away, you're going to be okay.
I'm in a little more humid area than you.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, you know, I'll tell you from seeing it, not having done it myself, but from seeing it, if you've got an AR series rifle and you fire it and you try to get it into the flash hider and you try and strip it with one of the M16A2 cleaning kits using the brush, the wire brush, and you put a barrel cap back on it, just word to the wise, any moisture that's in there is going to turn your flash hider orange.
Right. Give it the Cheeto disease. Exactly. And another little safety warning. For people who live in a humid area like me, or actually any area other than the arid climes of Arizona, there's plenty of little cheap pistol pouches out there that have a velvet flocking on the inside. I would say if you have one of those, go ahead and throw that thing away. Or give it to the kids or something. Don't keep a firearm in that. Those things end up attracting humidity like crazy, and if it's not in and out of that thing on a daily basis, it's going to ruin the finish of your gun. And I've got a horrible story that I don't really wish to go into on it. Let's just say that I no longer have like a $6,000 old pistol.
Oh
yeah.
Lessons learned are always expensive.
That's I mean, it's one of the best pistols, and man, I'll tell you what, it's a heartbreaker. When I came back and I opened up that thing and it was just, velvet was stuck to it, man. I mean, I could read the imprint. I could read the imprint of Smith & Wesson in the velvet that had stayed in the case, rusted backwards on it.
Oh my goodness, it was a mirror.
Yeah, dude, I was picking velvet off, rusted on velvet onto the cylinder with a pocket knife.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was bad, man. It was really bad, and I left it in that thing maybe 2 months, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you know what are you going to do, right? So
dude, it was a 5-digit serial number Smith.
That's what
no letter in the serial number, just 5 digits.
Man, I'll tell you what. Thankfully enough, you know, I've been fortunate in the care of my firearms. I've never ever lost any value in anything that I own. And maybe it's because of who I am as a person in terms.
Shut up!
No.
You know who I am as a person, dude. I'm telling you, I felt like crying when I opened that thing up, and I didn't do anything wrong other than living in the most humid area on the face of the earth.
Well, that's like people who live in Tornado Alley and don't move. Well, okay. So your mobile home blew away. Like you didn't know that was going to happen.
Well, I mean, there are anchors and all that, but.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I just be careful with what you got. I mean, don't go through my pain. Seriously, it was a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Anyhow, let's hit gun safety real quick. Rule number 1: every gun is always loaded. It is loaded until you verify that it is unloaded. Rule number 2: be careful where that muzzle goes. Watch out. Do not point it at anything that you don't wish for it to destroy. Rule number 3. Excuse me.
Don't cough on the radio.
Do not cough on the radio is rule number 2.5. Rule number 3 is know what your target is and know it is beyond your target at all times. And the most important rule is keep the booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon.
At its intended target.
That's right.
There you go. Can't get much more basic than that.
All right, so in speaking of discharging the weapon at the intended target, we've got a story about a guy who ran out of ammo.
Yeah, and due to the increasing cost of ammo, I will no longer be firing warning shots.
I shall not fire warning shots either. If I do, it may be some of that steel case Tula I made.
Yeah, there you go.
Left over.
So the story that you're referring to comes off of the Firearms blog, and it's a homeowner in Idaho, up in the Great Northwest, found himself confronting a burglar on New Year's Eve. And Bart Bryson was checking on his family's second property, which is currently unoccupied. And when he pulled up, he spotted some fresh footprints in the snow. And the closer inspection showed that the doorknob and on the front door had been forced open, and that's where it got a little different. So
that's a wake up call.
Yeah. So going
grab your gun.
Yeah, grabbing his gun. He goes into the house, and a voice yells, "Please don't shoot me!" And then as it was running towards him, so the intruder ran into him. 2 shots were fired into the floor, and then he didn't know if that was intentionally or accidentally. But basically, the guy ended up running out of ammunition because he kept shooting.
So he kept firing into the floor and firing willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And ran out of ammunition.
That's what it sounds like. So he decided to fire his pistol a few more times, and then he said he aimed these rounds into the ground because he didn't want to kill anyone over a burglary. The individual involved, the perpetrator, supposedly got away, and then, unsurprisingly, police were already en route to the location because the neighbors had called 911 after hearing
there was a crazy man shooting up the floor in his house.
Yep.
Okay, so what's the problem here? This guy's violating all sorts of safety rules.
Yeah, not only that, just common sense rules. Here's the deal. Castle doctrine doesn't apply when you go ahead and confront the individual who's breaking into your house in a lot of states. I'm not going to say that's concrete.
In my state, it applies. If you confront somebody, absolutely it applies.
Right.
But the Castle doctrine does not cover warning shots.
Exactly. And if you know anything about the state of New York, where one of our esteemed firearms owners fired warning shots into the ground, he was taken away and had his rights removed from owning firearms. So, like I said, every state is different. Every jurisdiction is different. We just had I think it was
regardless of the jurisdiction, warning shots are ill-advised. Warning shots. Well, remember you can't bring the bullet back, and a warning shot in a heated moment. Well, that doesn't provide for a proper sight picture with knowing what your target is or beyond your target at that point.
Yeah, and not only that, you're running the risk of not getting that follow-up shot, because what happens when somebody closes that distance and you haven't taken proper aim. So it was ill-advised. The guy's lucky he's not dead.
Man. Depending on the kind of floor he had, that's expensive to fix.
So, I wouldn't have done it that way. I probably would have stayed outside and waited for individual to depart the location, where I would have held him in a position of submission under the threat of duress, and waited for some law enforcement to come and take control of that guy. Like I said, I can't speak for the guy himself, because I think he's lucky he's not in jail.
I don't know if I can say exactly how I would react in the situation, but I'm going to tell you this. I know I'm not firing any warning shots into the ground, because my finger is not within the trigger guard. Because I'm guessing that those first 2 warning shots that went into the ground, and I'm saying warning with the air quotes around it, those 2 shots were not warning shots. Those 2 shots were him clenching up, afraid that something was running at him in the dark.
I'm pretty sure that, he had his. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a fully enclosed holster if there's a big hole in the bottom of it right now. So it's one of those things where I think it was ill-advised. So
warning shots are never a good idea, and I don't think any jurisdiction allows warning shots, to be honest with you. Maybe Alaska, because, or Wyoming, because there's nobody out there.
Yeah.
But I that's a bad move.
I think he's very fortunate as a firearms owner that he wasn't arrested himself, and certainly that he isn't dead. So, what can you say?
Yeah, and honestly, who can afford to fire that? I
was going to say, ammo is not cheap. So,
9mm seems to be back in its right about its pre-rush price, maybe at the most 10% over. 9mm everywhere now. Still no 22 on the shelf. There's at my big box it's available, but you're still on the 2-box limit.
Right.
And they keep it behind the counter. Everything else is out there. There's no limit on anything else. I don't know what the deal with the 22 Magnum and 22 long rifle is going to be. I really don't know how long it'll take to come back. We did that little expose on the numbers a while back, and I don't know. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Well, I don't think in the next 5 to 10 years, I don't think we're ever going to see 22 long rifle get back down to the 5 cents a round level. I don't think we're ever going to see that.
I don't know. I have a feeling we would be. It'll be, of course, the same stuff that it was, Remington Thunderbolt, CCI Blazer. But I don't know until it starts coming back we're going to see that.
Right.
And I'll tell you, I've noticed in my little local online forums and stuff where I keep an eyeball, people have been starting to burp up their stashes at 22, but they're still asking 10 cents a round for something, and whatever.
Honestly, I haven't even short of shotgun ammo. I haven't even really bought center fire ammo except for just to build up some stock for my 8mm stuff. I've got enough 30-06 on hand. I've got some 308, and I'm without having a place to go shoot. There's no sense of me really even putting money into it.
I understand that. I think you're going to want to get to that point where you can join a range and get out and shoot, just because it gets frustrating.
It does.
To have it, not be able to use it, and when you have it and you're not able to use it, you also kind of cut down on your preparedness aspect of it.
Right.
And I don't know. I think it's a good idea to always have, be enough to fill all your magazines, and then enough to fill all your magazines again, at least, and probably you should have 4 or 5 magazines for everything you got.
Yeah. Well, and then that's one of those things where we'll take a look at this bolt action rifle I have. It's called the Browning X Bolt. It's a fairly new firearm, and some of the magazines that they have, they can get a little spendy. I think you sent me some while I was in Germany,
And at that point, I don't think you'd necessarily need extra magazines for that X-Bolt, because that's a 5-round magazine, and that's simple enough to load on its own. At that point, you'd carry a couple extra boxes of ammo with you, and you'd be fine. I'm saying if you've got, the modern sporting rifle, or you got yourself a handgun, have a couple extra magazines for those sitting around.
Yeah,
good quality ones.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings up something I'd like to talk about. In the past, we've seen the rush on the military styled weapons. The AR-15, the AK-47, right after the rush, and anything that even remotely resembled one. I really would counsel people to, if you don't have a pistol now, get one rather soon. I see the next push for the gun control forces is going to be in handguns.
Yeah,
I think the argument of the AR-15 has been exposed enough to where that's not going to be the target of choice. I believe the next target is going to be handguns, and that's really where they're probably going to have the most effect.
Well, you're going to have the champions of gun control in Congress, some of which are going to be retiring, some of which are not seeking re-election. That's their legacy, right? So they're setting themselves up for that. California's got Barbara Boxer, who has said that she will not, seek re-election in 2016.
But to take up her place, Kamala Harris is running.
That's right, and she is a gun grabber par excellence. So, you're never going to get rid of that faction. They just spawn new zombies that fall in line with the same logic.
And unfortunately, any advice we give regarding firearms or our opinions on firearms are totally not applicable in the state of California, because we don't keep up with what's on your registry list of what are allowable guns for you guys. Sorry, you guys are lost.
Yeah.
I just saw that California had a funky rule, or a funky, I guess, I don't know if you even call it a loophole in their law, to where you could get an AR-15 that didn't have a bullet block on it, the bullet button, which is a device that locks the magazine into place and actually requires a tool to take it out. Like a key of some sort to pop this out. Well, you could get around that by buying a single shot and then converting it to in regular semi-automatic fire, and that was available in a lot of firearms. There was 1911s. There was a lot of semi-auto rifles had that option, and that just came off.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you gotta go ahead and take a look now. There's a lot of good firearms out there that are relatively inexpensive. Take a look at some of the Rugers that are coming out. If you got the funds available after Christmas, go out there and get yourself a handgun. Go out there and get yourself, something that you're comfortable with, that you're going to be able to practice with, because Michael's right. There's going to be a time, and it's probably sooner rather than later, where this is the next big push, and it may get pushed out of your price range.
I would personally even counsel that if you find a good deal on a handgun, and it's not even particularly what you like, but that's a decent quality, usable, serviceable handgun, and it's at the right price, even if it's not your favorite, I would almost counsel on picking it up and having it for the future. It could be one of them items that you bought it for $200 today, and in 6 months it's $1,000.
Yeah.
These things can happen.
So, Michael, we're getting close to the end. I want to give a big shout out to my buddy Chris for hooking me up with a fantasy football trophy. The 2014 fantasy football winner was this guy. So I wanted to say a big thank you, and I want to say thank you to our listeners, and enjoy being able to talk here with you. Nick,
I'd like to thank UCY for giving us this platform to express something that you and I would do normally. We talk about firearms and what we do normally, and just giving us this chance to share it with everybody. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And do like the song says, buy a gun. By the way, our theme song is done by a band named the Gitmos. Check them out on YouTube. The Gitmos, Gitmos. They got a whole bunch of really good music out there. Like it says, buy a gun, a lot of ammo, automatic rifle, and a shotgun.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks a lot, Nick.
Hey.